Welcome all of you to this webinar of our 29029 prep. Many of you have maybe heard of me from past events, being on the mountain with you. And those of you that are new, I look forward to meeting all of you on the mountain. Over the years, I've gotten a good chance to pretty much do every single 29029 event, all the Utahs, not every Vermont, but I know the mountains pretty well, especially the 29029 ones. But with that, I usually spend my time out there with all of you to get to know you, to help you through the event, and mainly work on our mindset, sort of a set and setting type of discussion. Because similar to where you might have heard set and setting in the past, or currently even in the world of psychedelics, the interesting thing is being on that mountain and the transformative experience that it can be for all of you makes this a very powerful, long lasting, once in a lifetime experience. And so, with that, I like to uh, take time with as many people as I can and dive deep into their ascent with them, or many ascents. Some people I talk to 2 to 3 ascents, and we have a really deep, powerful conversation. And the reason I do that is because I'm not a traditional coach in that sense. I do a lot of mindset work. I do a lot of visualization work, what I call the space between you hitting enter for a 29029 event and the start line. There's a lot there, and there's a lot of growth there, and there's a lot of reflection there in the training alone. Now you're going to be on the mountain for 36 hours and going to have an opportunity to do nothing else. This is what you signed up for, to spend 36 hours on this mountain. You have nothing else going on. You set this time aside, and how can we make the most of it? And that's what I like to share with most of you. And of course, I don't get through all 200 people every single time, but I get through a fair amount of you. And I really, really look forward to Sun Valley with all of you, um, because it's a new location. It's a little bit of an adventure for me as well. And again, it's going to be new faces, new personalities, new stories, new adventures, new tears, new laughs, new experiences. Everything is going to go through this cycle again. And for all of you to see you on Sunday morning after the event, or on Saturday night after the event, when we're sort of having our barbecue slash party slash dinner slash not awards, but recognition, I would call it. That is what I look forward to as well, to see the joy and the sense of accomplishment that all of you have experienced over the last 36 hours. And so that's why we're having this webinar today, to sort of dive into your 29029 potential and how to tap most of that, that you're already training for. But now, how do we use all that training, all that work you've done, and you still have to do 5 more weeks, that we can then unleash that on the mountain? And as we all know, any type of event, an endurance event, but you're doing an ultra endurance event, anything that goes through the night and into the next day, is something very powerful, and a lot can go wrong. And we want to sort of go through that today. We are going to go through some um, deep envisioning visualization exercise, where not necessarily an exercise, but I want to walk us through it. And from that point, we're going to we're of course going to have some Q&A at the end, but I also want to sort of prepare you for what I call the big question is, what I call it the big question for any endurance event. And that is, how do you respond to the circumstance? How do you respond to the circumstance? In any ultra endurance event, things will go wrong. How do you respond to that circumstance? And by us going through a few exercises, and I'll go through them with you in Sun Valley on the mountain, as many know in Utah and Vermont, I do the same thing the days prior, preparing you for the things that will go wrong. and they will go wrong. But that's not going to deter us from our outcome, from our goals, from our red bib, or as many ascents as you set yourself a goal to achieving. None of that. And that's the best part about these 29 on 29 events. They're in a controlled environment. You can be successful. The infrastructure is set up and is put in place for you to be successful. You can't not be successful. It's up to you and yourself. And like in those 10 tips that you receive with your welcome package, it's you versus you. And it's not a competition. It's not you against others. This event is hard enough as it is. I've done endurance events all around the world, from 5 to 6 to 7 days long, to 2 weeks long, to long weekends, to really long one days. But I respect this event a lot because, again, it is such a powerful, long event that taxes you in a different way. And you get to share it with so many wonderful people, different gondola rides. The whole experience is something very special. But we learn a ton on that mountain. We learn a ton about ourselves. We learn a ton of what we're capable of and who we can actually become kicking out of this experience on the other side. A new level of confidence, a new level of insight, a new level of source and power within you that you didn't realize necessarily you had. And then you got to unleash it on this mountain in Sun Valley, and you kick out the other side. Hopefully, I hope for everyone, no matter how experienced you are, somewhat transformed. And you might wonder, well, why would you be transformed if you've done a bunch of endurance events? We've had people there who've done all kinds of amazing events, from Ironman winners to marathon winners to ultra distance runners and really successful athletes on all levels. But all of them have taken a little part of that 29029 mountain with them. And there was some transformation, the relationships, the insights, but also watching others go through their first ultra endurance experience is incredibly powerful. And it really brings back the joy for many of us who do this all the time. And to see the excitement and the transformation in others just allows us who have done these events for many years to just go with a new type of energy and a new appreciation and a new perspective into our own events. So you are all sharing in a community that's making us all better, stronger, more grateful for what we're doing. And that's another reason I love these events. And you guys will see that on the mountain. I am constantly in awe and excited and motivated by all of you. And it keeps me going up those mountains over and over and over again. Mark asked me a couple of years ago, or maybe 2 years ago, how many ascents I've done at one of these events. I think it was in Utah, or maybe it was in Vermont. I don't remember. And I go, I have no idea. I've been going up and down this mountain for 30 hours now. But it's because every ascent is a different story and a different human being that has a beautiful story and narrative to their life, and that they're able to tap into as they're going through a difficult phase here of climbing ascent number 15 or 13 or 12, or maybe for them, even 6 ascents is a huge leap forward. We've seen people come back year after year, continue to move further and further towards that red bib. They're doing 3 or 4 more ascents than the year before. And even that is so powerful and so meaningful and so enjoyable. So that is what I'm here for today. So we have 5 weeks to Sun Valley. And I want us to sort of take a moment right now. And if you can close your eyes, you can close your eyes. But if not, sort of go there with me. What this mountain, and I don't know what Sun Valley looks like either. Go there with me on what this event will unfold for you at 6 a.m. on Friday, that weekend in Sun Valley. And as we sort of see ourselves doing these ascents and what that means to us, not necessarily the event, but you achieving the start line alone. you being there after many weeks of training and going through some of these ascents at home, as well as preparing, as well as your family observing you doing this. So there's a sense already right there, just being at the start line of this 36-hour event, of something that you've never done before. And as I like to say, when we do things, when we sign up for things, when we look forward to doing something we've never done before, well, we have to become someone we've never been before because we're doing something we've never done before. Already there's a transformation. Already there's this big step forward into who you are becoming. And when you start closing your eyes and thinking of that day in June, in 5 weeks, think about who you are going to be then. And all that you've been through and the work you've done. And now it's 6 a.m. The sun is up in Sun Valley at that time. It's one of the longest days of the year, a great time of year to be doing this event in late June because we're approaching summer solstice, so it'll be light out, but it'll be this beautiful morning sunshine, probably a fair amount of dew in the air from a cold night. And we're going to go into probably a pretty warm day, but it's still a little chilly, and you are going up on your first ascent. And the fun part about the first ascent is just everybody is still together. We're all in a big group having a blast, laughing nervously, some people talking small talk nervously, but the excitement of the next 36 hours and what lies ahead is you can feel that energy in the air. And then Jesse will do his talk, and his talk is inspiring. It gets you fired up. And then, there's a countdown and off we go. And now here you are. You're actually doing it. You're doing that thing you've been thinking about for the last 6 months, 3 months, 4 months. For some of us, for many of us, for the last 18 months. We didn't get to do it last year. So here we finally are in Sun Valley. We're finally doing it. We're finally getting a chance to unleash this training and this energy and this motivation and this excitement that we've been training for a long time. And that's something to be incredibly proud of. So before I go into any type of strategy regarding this, because there is a lot of strategy and different ways to do Sun Valley, we want to start thinking about our fuel and our hydration for this event. It is minimum 20 hours, maximum 36 hours, right? And anytime you're doing something this long, you have to keep the gas tank of your engine somewhat topped off. Now, hopefully you've had a pretty good breakfast prior to the start. You're topped off, your engine tank is full, right? And you feel pretty good. You're not necessarily over full, burpy, and upset stomach, but you just feel topped off. And here we go. And so the first ascent, maybe even 2 ascents, you won't need a lot of fuel. But as you go through your day and as the temperatures rise and fall again into the night, you will continue to need to fuel and not necessarily keep the engine topped off. That's impossible to do. You can't eat as much as you're burning while you're climbing these mountains. But you can prevent the engine tank, your fuel tank, from getting too empty. You can prevent it, the bathtub, as I like to say, from running dry. And that's the important thing. There's a level of calories that you can take to be successful. Again, a lot of times, fueling is overlooked and people think it's their fitness that's slowing them down. They think they're just not fit enough for the 12th or 13th or 14th ascent. No, or 8th or 9th, excuse me, not even that far into the event. They start wondering about their fitness at the 6th, 7th, 8th ascent, right? Now they're 6, 7 hours in and they're wondering, why do I feel so tired or my muscles are achy or so fatigued? It's not necessarily your fitness, it's your fuel. Your engine is running out of fuel. So this is one of the first things that I was talking about, unleashing your potential. You need to stay topped off. The training you've done, with the pace and the effort level that you're familiar with from your training, you're not going to be able to unleash that, to display that if you don't fuel that body of yours. So stay present, stay attentive that you're getting enough fuel. Now, there's guidelines around that, and I will gladly talk to you about that in Sun Valley, or also Coach Brent and I will be able to give you some insights on minimum amount of calories and things you want to think of. But that's one of the first things as you close your eyes and envision this event. One of your first priorities and strategy is I want to stay well fueled for this event. I want to be able to show the training, that display the training I've done and the sacrifices I've made by not having fuel as an excuse for why I'm not able to show that. And along the same lines, very similar to everything we just said, is hydration. You want to stay hydrated. You're in the mountains and it's the summer. You're a little bit of altitude, not a little bit, a fair amount of altitude. And again, things are dry, summer, temperatures will heat up, and we want to stay hydrated. I liken hydration as the engine oil of a car, right? Without oil, that thing's going to seize up and come to a stop. If you get dehydrated enough, your engine will seize up, your body will seize up, and you will either have to stop or slow down dramatically. And you don't want to do that. So instead, we want to think of, am I oiling up this engine, meaning do I have enough engine oil in the engine? And then do I have enough fuel in it? So fueling and hydration. And again, there's guidelines around that for everybody that we will gladly dive into. But from that standpoint, again, big picture strategy, how am I going to be successful on the mountain in Sun Valley or Utah or Vermont? It's going to be with those two things as a baseline. All these things that we talk about is going to be about, let's make sure those aren't the reason. Avoidable mistakes, avoidable circumstances that are the reason I can't do another ascent or I have to slow way down. We want to get all those off the table. And so those are two really good ones to just stay committed to early on. We have those gondola rides. So we want to, our third strategy of this is, as we envision this, what am I doing on the gondola rides? Well, that is a perfect time to think about fueling and hydration. You're sitting, you have anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes on your way down. Sure, it's wonderful to catch up with people and small talk and the excitement and the energy. Do not forget your first two strategies, fueling and hydration, as you're on that gondola down. That is the pro tip. That's what the best of the best, those that are really fast on those ascents and do it at a completely different pace than many of us, but also those that have done it many times, they know I'm just going to stay focused on my fueling and hydration when I'm taking the gondola down. And we have plenty of time to be social and catch up with people. But don't forget that as you're taking the gondola ride down. And guess what? While you're taking that gondola ride down, when people see you eat and drink, you're reminding them and they'll say, oh yes, eating and drinking, great idea. You support each other with this. And it just continues to foster this environment that everybody is here for everybody on the mountain. Now, 29029 and the event makes it very easy for you to be successful with these first two strategies. There's plenty of hydration and fuel at the start line at the base of the mountain. Then there's an aid station halfway up the mountain where they have tons of fuel and hydration as well. And then they have another one at the top of the mountain right before you get in the gondola. So if you miss your window or if you miss an opportunity, there's plenty in 15, 20, 30, 40 minutes to grab at the next aid station. So that is off the table. We don't even have to worry about that. All we have to do is stay on it. Am I fueling? Am I hydrating? And again, if you're wondering for your own personal needs, Coach Brent and I and anybody else on the 29029 staff is easily there to help you with this, because there's some pretty standard guidelines to give you a good insight. And you might be saying, well, Chris, why don't you just give us the standard guidelines? Well, because it takes some time to train this type of intake. And so I want you to be able to just think of that right now and not overthink it and get worried about if you're going to be able to digest that or drink that much. You'll listen to your thirst on the mountain and you'll listen to your hunger, and that'll work out really well. Now, also within that, you have lunch and dinner and breakfast. You have the lodge that has outstanding food at the base of the mountain, where many people, they make sure they don't skip the yummy meals. And I say yummy because, after 30 hours, after 20 hours, after hiking all the way through the night, you might be tired of the aid station food. Now, it's great food, and there's a lot of variety of different things from Crustables, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that everybody always laughs about after they've done a 29 event because it's like the one thing they remember. To there's like little espresso coffee packets, to all kinds of bars and gels and chews and electrolyte drinks, and everything is out there. But again, you might want something what's called real food, your regular meal. You might want a sandwich. You might want a warm meal in the evening. And that's a great time to go into the lodge and get yourself the food that you're used to eating. You might not be used to eating aid station food, which is totally fine. So then that's why I'm not diving into the guidelines here, because we have so many different variables to allow you to be successful getting in those two main components early on in order for you to unleash your potential on the mountain, that we would gladly go into it individually with you. And yes, all 200 of you, we're able to do that. So we stay on that and the gondola rides, and we use those to our advantage. And then you have the night, right? So we've talked a lot about fueling and hydration and using the gondola rides during the day to stay fueled and hydrated. But we also have darkness and cooler temperatures that we need to be envisioning and thinking about how we're going to work our way through that. So as you prepare these last 5 weeks, think about the nighttime. Think about that little light that you're shining off your forehead as you're climbing that mountain, your little headlamp, right? And you're in this different world where you completely lose all reality around you because it's dark and you're focused on the light and your footing. You're a little tired, not a little tired, you're very tired. You've been hiking for 18 hours. and but you want to do the night. You want to do the night hikes. So as you're prepping these last 5 weeks, think about the night hikes. They are amazing. They transform you, they transport you into a different world. You could be on any mountain. You could be anywhere, not even on a mountain, in the world. Because once it's dark and you're just in your headlamp world, you could be anywhere. You can be on any of those summits that you're checking off the box on your bib, or you could be on your local home mountain. Heck, you could be at home on your treadmill doing 18% or 10% or 12%. Because you're in this different world of your headlamp and the experience of it and sort of your perception, and you're sort of tired, it's an amazing experience. And again, something many don't forget for the rest of their lives. And not because it's so powerful and deep, but it's just different. It's something you just sort of remember because it's unique. It's something that your brain doesn't recognize as a consistent pattern that it's pulling memories from that network in our brain. And so therefore it becomes a new memory, and a new memory and a new experience is something we hold on to for a long time. So as we envision that mountain, one of the ways we can unleash that potential on the mountain is to be prepared for those night hikes. You've had some dinner and you're hydrated and fueled, and you have a good group of people that you seem to be hiking around. And then there's coaches who lead the night hikes, but you also might want to be on that hike by yourself out there. Just sort of get lost a little bit in your mind, find your peace and quiet, and just do your hike. Many really enjoy the night hikes to just be alone, just to no technology, no people, just to be with themselves and just to think and hear what their soul, what their mind, what their conscience is telling them, and not necessarily telling them, just what is there to be heard. And I talk a lot about this when I hike with many of you on the mountain. I ask you those prompting questions of, have you had some time with yourself? Have you had a chance to sort of go deep here? Because it's a unique opportunity. You're taken care of. You have the infrastructure to be out there by yourself, but you're not really by yourself. You're ego and your emotions are all stripped down a little bit because you've been doing this for 18 hours. You've been doing this for 20 hours. It's 2 a.m. You're just a little bit, not a little bit, you're quite exhausted, but enough that you keep going, but it allows everything to be washed away. Your daily concerns, your checklists, all the things you usually think about that make your mind busy. It's no longer there because you have been doing this for so long and you're so exhausted, and the small mind, as I call it, will eventually get tired. And the small mind, with its ego and with its things that it needs to validate and be busy with, is asleep. And you just keep hiking and you keep noticing things that your deeper consciousness is telling you, is talking to you about. And it's amazing. And you remember maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes of this total time, but it's a very powerful memory. And that is something I want you all to think about when you unleash your potential on that mountain in 5 weeks. Do some night hikes. And I know that there might be questions. Well, Chris, how should I go about it with regards to strategy and hikes? I will get into that. But again, I want to put these things out there so that you already are prepared prior to the mountain. You've envisioned yourself hiking in the dark. You've envisioned yourself having that headlamp on and it being comfortable. That's a big thing, you guys, by the way. A headlamp doesn't stay that comfortable for very long if it doesn't fit right. And especially when you're tired and it has like a little niggle spot where you're just bothered by it. So make sure you test your headlamp prior, right? And so that you can really take in these night hikes and really enjoy them. And sometimes you're hiking with somebody and it's a very powerful conversation, and you realize 2 hikes have even passed in the night, right? And you might wonder, well, how long does a hike take? How long will an ascent take? Well, typically about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, plus a 20-minute gondola or 30-minute gondola ride. Let's just say 2 hours per ascent. Well, if you think about that, that's 3 or 4 ascents when we're this close to summer solstice and the longest day of the year, that it's going to really be dark, because then you got the sunrise from the top of a mountain, which is again an amazing experience and one you don't want to miss. And one you're wondering, well, do I want to be in the tent for that? Or do I want to be on top of a mountain in an incredibly powerful emotional experience because I hiked through the night? When's the last time I did anything physical like this? No less through a night and through a day prior. So you saw a sunset. Wait, we might even see a sunrise at 6 a.m. on day of start. I don't know the sunrise time in Sun Valley in June, but we might. And then we'll see a sunset, which will hopefully be a beautiful sunset in a beautiful part of the country. And then we'll see another sunrise. And seeing that second sunrise, one that we have worked hard for, the one that we've been climbing for, one that has a lot more meaning to us because we did all these ascents prior. That's the power. That is the awe-inspiring emotion that you see as that sun starts creeping over the horizon. And we descend down in the gondola and we lose the sunlight because it's rising in the east, and we go back to the top of that mountain. So back to the point I was making, there might only be 3 or 4 ascents, 4 ascents at 2 hours ascent. That's 8 hours. Let's say it gets dark at 9 and gets light out at 5, right? That might be it. So we don't want to lose those 4 that we have. Maybe really darkness 3. Think about that prior. Think about that opportunity, that unique opportunity. So then Now we're in this conversation of strategy of, well, how should I go about this? Chris, you're telling me I want to make the sunset. I want to make the sunrise. I want to go into the lodge and have some meals. Like, how am I going to finish? How do I best go about this event? Well, of course, it's a question of how many ascents you personally set yourself as a goal to achieve. And let's talk about that for a moment. You should have a stretch goal. You should have a number of ascents. Hopefully that's a red bib that is beyond what you thought was possible. And because what you think is possible and what really is possible is already not something that you should limit yourself towards. Now throw in 200 other people who are also pushing themselves, that are supporting you. Now throw in the infrastructure of this amazing event and the team there of 29029 with food, with hydration, with fuel, with Normatec boots and massage therapists, right? Can you see already how you probably can do a lot more than you thought you could do because you're used to doing it at home in the morning before an afternoon soccer game and getting kids moved all around town, or, with other engagements with all this training? No, you're here relaxed, excited, motivated, fueled, hydrated, curious, passionate. It's all there. It's all happening for you. And so you will probably want that stretch goal to be a little bit further than you thought you could do. So let's say, as an example, you had 10. I would put 13 on there, 30% more. Because again, you're rested, you're powerful, you're supported, you're fueled, you're hydrated, you have experiences that you want to go through with regards to sunrise and sunset and people to do it with and new friends. And also then you're like, wow, I've been having such a great time. I never even got to do that individual hike where I could just be in my head. And then Chris keeps finding me and talking my ear off. Like, I just want my peace. So keep that in mind too. So there's so many things on your checklist that you want to achieve. So let's say you have that stretch goal, you will achieve that, and we will help you achieve that. The coaches out there are awesome for helping you with that, with Brent and Chad and I. And we will continue to push you and support you and motivate you to get up that mountain with us, because we're out there doing it with you. So I would always recommend you start at 6 a.m. and you just keep rolling. Not at a fast pace, not at an easy pace, just at a steady pace. And as I say to my athletes that I work with from around the world, there is one goal in ultra endurance athletics. The winner is who slows down the least. Anybody can start fast, but the guys and girls that win these ultra endurance events, and I know for 29029, there is no winning, but what's important there is the winners of the ultra endurance events are the ones that slow down the least. They might start pretty mellow, but they don't slow down. And that's the same thing you want to keep in mind. I'm going to start easy and not slow down, because that will put you ahead of the clock. That will make you successful. That will allow you to experience this weekend that you were looking to the way you wanted to experience it. As I like to say, for you to thrive, not just survive. You want to thrive through this weekend of experiencing all the things I'm talking about: the sunrises, the sunsets, the night hikes, the people, the energy of the start, the energy of people finishing right before the cutoff, the inspiration by Colleen, the announcer, and every time the branding, the board, the meals, the beautiful weather, the gondola rides, the music, the midnight and the goofy midnight and late night gondolas that are all decorated and look like some sort of magic mushroom trip coming down the mountain. There's so much going on. You want to experience all that. You want to thrive in all that. You want to be fit enough, fueled and hydrated enough to take that all in. You don't want to just survive. You don't want to just slug through this. You want to feel amazing. And of course, we all get tired. Our body gets tired. But if you're fueled and hydrated, and you use these remaining 5 weeks to really think through all the things that you want to achieve on that mountain, and prepare for it with the fitness that Coach Brent has built for you, then you will take it all in. You won't just survive. You won't just slug your way through the mountain. You will feel powerful and good and invigorated and supported and positive and joyful out there on that mountain. That is fitness. And that is what we're trying to build. And Coach Brent is trying to build for all of you. So you guys can all experience what we know you can experience on that mountain. So start at 6 a.m. and just keep rolling. Just keep rolling. And of course, we get tired. And of course, you might negotiate with yourself, and it might be totally fine. You might be ahead of your pace, what we would call comfortable finishing pace, so that you're done the next day, let's say at noon or 1 or 2. And then you can wash up and sort of get ready to support the last ascents of the last few people and really get them over the hump of doing that from 10 to 13, right? Their stretch goals, and see the joy and the gratitude and the power of seeing them achieve something they've never achieved before, never thought they could be achieved, right? And then throw into it what we said earlier, to become somebody new. To do something they've never done before, they have to become someone they've never been. And watching that unfold during those 36 hours is unbelievable. And I guarantee you, everyone that I've talked to that has ever done a 29029 event participant has seen, well, you can ask all the 29029 staff too, that's it, has seen numerous, but if not at least one person that has had that transformation over those 36 hours, who they were at the welcome dinner, who they were in the morning before the start, to who they became at the end of this is amazing. That transformation, and you can just observe how they are growing into a more confident, powerful, positive, just joyful and belief-oriented person just on that mountain. And that's what, in many ways, 29029 delivers. And I'm not even really sure that that was the overarching intention when they started this event, but it's become that. It has definitely become that. I know I'm getting, not only am I getting goosebumps on getting excited for the mountain, but I'm also getting off topic on how to unleash the potential for all of you. So back to sleep and the strategy. Yes, at 10 p.m., you might decide, you know what, I have, at 10 p.m., now we're 16 hours in. Maybe you have 8 ascents, right? And maybe Sun Valley only requires 13. And you can do the math on what it requires for 5 more, ascents. And so you go, I've been on pace for this. And so let's say I slow down a little bit, and then I can figure out that I need the 5 more cents in 10 hours. So if I start at 7 a.m., I'll be done at 5 p.m. See how quickly that gets tight? So you then say at 10 p.m., I'm going to do 2 more hikes, 1 night hike till midnight, and then do the midnight hike with a coach or somebody like that and go to bed at 2. And I'm going to get like 4 or 5 hours of sleep. So I'm back on the mountain at 7. Right? Now, I only have 3 ascents to do in order to finish at 1, right? And so now that creates a lot more room for you to be successful no matter what. And again, the energy and the adrenaline and the emotions of doing this will keep you going longer than you think. But do not fall behind the pace. And again, everybody's pace is different. This is not a pace or a certain pace that you need to keep. It's your pace. And so you keep going. You just keep going. As Jesse says, you just keep putting one foot in front of the another. You just keep knocking out ascents. And, talk about a person who knows how to get that done. That's Jesse. I've seen him do it in a variety of different events. He just keeps moving forward. And again, something that he does really well as a coach, talking about Jesse now, is that his ability to not slow down. That guy can start at a pace and not slow down better than most. So, and I know he'll laugh about that if he hears about this, because he prides himself on that. So, but there we are. So that's sort of in this on the strategy. And again, Coach Brent and I, Chad, are more than available and to be on the mountain with you and answer these questions on how you're doing, on what you need to be doing, if you should sleep, and how you should sleep. So um, I want to go into two more things. One is staying ahead of niggles. And you guys have this on your 10 points on how to be successful on the mountain that you get in your package. But it is important that if you notice some cramping, if you notice some knee pain, if you notice some lower back stuff, if you know those little things going on, that you want to be on it early. That's what the therapists are there for. That's what the Normatec boots are there for. Now, you might say, well, I don't want to stop climbing. Yes, but if you get ahead of a niggle early, it stops you from stopping for 2-3 hours, stops you from stopping altogether. So if you feel something, talk to me, talk to Coach Brent, talk to the therapist, talk to some other 29029 coaches and staff out there on the mountain. They've seen it all over doing this over the last 2-3 years. And so therefore, they'll send you to the right person who can hopefully help you or fix some things, from blisters to knee pain and cramping. I would say I've done mostly Utahs. I think I've done every Utah. And Vermont's, all of them that come up is always some early stuff that we can address that will go away. If we address it early, it can go away. From hiking backwards up the mountain, like 50 to 100 steps, where it's not obviously super steep and that's dangerous, but where it's just you're able to use some different muscle groups to give the muscles a break, your calves a break, your knees a break, and so forth. Or some stretches that we can do, or some things we can do in the gondola on the way down. So stay ahead of the niggles. And that being said, I also said that things can quickly get delayed by 2-3 hours. You might have a headache. You might not be feeling well. You might be feeling sick. There's a lot that can go on in those many, many hours of being out there on the mountain. And just like it says in your package on those 10 bullet points, you go through highs and lows. We're in the mountains, you guys. Think of the mountain mentality here. There's peaks and there's valleys in the mountains. And emotionally, we will go through peaks and valleys. Physically, we will go through peaks and valleys. Spiritually, meaning our soul, we will go through peaks and mountains. There will be a sense where you feel your force, a sense where you will feel euphoric. You will feel amazing. You will feel like I can do this nonstop. The next 12 ascents, I'm going to bust this out. 1 ascent later, you can be totally miserable, upset, emotional, low energy, frustrated, impatient, wondering, how am I going to do any more? That's how quickly it goes. Now, I will say this. If you feel emotions like that, frustration, of short-temperedness, of doubt, eat. That is usually eat. Many of you know that Snickers commercial where, some famous actor is having a meltdown and then the guy gives him or the girl gives him a Snickers bar, and quickly that rage or that behavior is gone. It is true. Some fuel, some calories to get that blood sugar back up, and quickly you'll notice, oh, all right, that was just low blood sugar, bad emotions because of low blood sugar, and I'm back to being more capable. But in general, I would not say there's been a 29029 event that I've done where I haven't hit valleys, where it's like, really, do I really want to do how many more ascents? I could just sit at the bottom of the mountain and talk to people and welcome people, and maybe sit at the middle of an mid-mountain aid station and wait there and sit in a chair. It's the same thing. Peaks and valleys, emotions. That's what this is all about. For every mountaintop, there's got to be a valley, or else it wouldn't be a mountaintop. Accept that. Know that ahead of time. For the next 5 weeks, know that there's going to be a narrative happening of emotions swinging all over the place. And when I come up to you on the mountain and I hike up to you, maybe you're walking really or hiking really slow at that moment, and I will hike up to you and I ask you, and many of the past participants know this, they'll hear, they know when they hear my voice, so how's it going? And they're like, great, here's Chris. That's what we'll talk about. Well, what is it I can do to help you be successful? How do we continue to unleash your potential on this mountain? Because there's more potential in you than you know you have. I've seen it over 25 years of doing this coaching, and I see it every time I do a 29029 event, because we just need to take care of ourselves. We need to support each other. We need to take the energy of this entire group and just continue climbing the mountain. The infrastructure is in place for us to be exceedingly, beyond our expectations, successful. That's what 29029 is. In so many ways, it's an opportunity for you to achieve more than you thought you could achieve, and the transformation that it brings about with that long weekend. And I hope we're all going to go home with exactly those emotions and those memories and those thoughts going into, the rest of our lives. I mentioned this a lot to Mark when I talked to him, that I feel 29029 is such a unique event because it's your own mini hero's journey. You go off and you transform yourself. You go through some serious trials and tribulations in the training, and then finally on the mountain, and the transformation and the lessons and the growth and the learning that you had on this weekend on that mountain. You come back from that mountain transformed. You're a different person. The hero returns from the journey, from their big adventure, from their overcoming, from the trials and tribulations and the dark caverns and dragons he had to slay or she had to slay out there. And they come back a transformed person, stronger, more confident, more powerful than they were when they left. And they return home with this inner glow, with this inner spark in them, knowing what they did out there on the mountain will be with them forever. So, all right, well, let me dive into some questions here. If anyone has any questions after my 47-minute talk there. But keep in mind, one last thing on that is, as you go through these final 5 weeks, remember, how will I respond to the circumstance? As these things come up over the next few weeks in your training, or the questions you may have, how will I respond to the circumstance? And maybe, like I wrote in the 10 bullet points prior, pre-mortem, write out what it is you worry about or what circumstances you feel might come up. And then how would you respond to them? That way, you're using less cognitive load, less energy, less emotional energy in dealing with that than if it comes up on the mountain and you're sort of like, "Now, oh, great, now what do I do?" Right? We want to avoid, "Oh, great, now what do I do?" we want to have as many of those questions answered as possible. All right, let me dive into some of these questions. Do you ever need to wait more than 5 to 10 minutes for a gondola down the mountain? No, it is like almost immediate. You roll up and the biggest dilemma is that there's other people, and there's like 5 or 6 people that you got to meet on the ascent, and you don't want to break up with them on the gondola ride down. So we can't fit more than 4 people usually, sometimes 6. I don't know how big the gondola is in Sun Valley, into the gondola, so somebody gets left out, and then you're like, well, I'll ride with you, and then it's 5 and 2, and then so that's the biggest dilemma. Who am I going to ride the gondola down with? So what was your most transformative endurance event, and why? Well, I mean, that's a difficult question to answer, because each one of them comes with a variety of different stories and narrative. We all have our own past experiences and life experiences that create the story and the narrative on who we are coming into that event. So a 100-mile run has, for me, been a different transformative experience than, let's say, an Ironman, or a multi-day stage race, or a big climb. So it depends. Each one of them comes from a different source, I like to say, because it taps into a different meaning, and therefore the transformation and the growth and the insights and the learning are different each time. And there, each time as you progress, right, we are now somebody we weren't before because of the experiences that we had. And so therefore, when we go into the next ultra endurance experience, we're carrying that knowledge, those insights, that growth, that learning with us. And so it creates a new platform of transformation and understanding and insight. So let's dive into another question. Thinking about the layout of the mountain, is the lodge close to where we start the hike? Yes. How about the tents? The tents, it depends. It depends on how close they are to exactly where the gondola and the start is. But based off of past um, base camps, I would say, it is no more than a 5 to 7 minute walk away. We had a unique experience in Vermont a year and a half ago because the temperatures were so cold and it was like snowing that we all were put into hotels. And that's another thing, 29029, they look out for you in a crazy detailed way. And so Mark and the staff and the team was not comfortable with those temperatures and potential winds and so forth and snow. So they said, we're scrapping the tents, we're putting everybody into hotel rooms. And so again, everybody was well taken care of, everybody was warm and therefore super successful. And I bring that up because those were, yes, a little bit further away, like you had to walk to where there was enough hotel rooms to put people in. And so that was the main distance there. But otherwise, it's directly at the base of the mountain. Like Utah is maybe 300 yards away, if that. And then Vermont is like you come off the gondola and you're basically staring at the tents. So that makes that very easy. Now, sleeping is also challenging because people are up all night, right? In and out of tents. People are stopping at 2. Others are starting again at 4. Others are hiking through the night and grabbing some clothes from their tent. So there's a dynamic and energy moving through the tent village at all times as well. So keep that in mind because it turns into this ever so present movement. It's not like this super peaceful, quiet tent village where there's like crickets. So don't expect that. So regarding the calories, I always get a lot of questions on this. Let's just say this: there's a guideline, there's a floor, as I like to say. For most females, the minimum amount of calories we need per hour is about 150 calories. And I say that's if you're doing that, then fuel calories is not the reason why you're struggling with something. We can knock that out of the way as something, okay, she is clearly fueled just barely enough, but not enough to be not feeling well or running out of fitness or not able to do this next ascent. So, and men, it's usually around 200. That's what I usually recommend as the floor. Now, the further we go into an endurance event, the more you will find that you will be hungrier and hungrier and hungrier, because as we said in the beginning, you can't eat the amount of calories that you're burning. And so therefore you're gently, yes, letting that tank run dry, and gently that bathtub is running empty, and you're filling it up a little bit with some fuel along the way. But eventually it's getting lower and lower, and your body is sending signals that it wants fuel. That might be a good time to take a break and go into the lodge and have a meal. Have like a real meal. Take some time. Take your time eating the meals. But again, keep in mind, because we're hiking, we're not running, we're not doing something super strenuous with regards to being out of breath and having to send a lot of blood to the working muscles. We're in a very steady state. Remember, the strategy is to stay steady. Remember, not slow down the least. And because our body recognizes one steady output, it is able to digest food and eat fine while we're hiking. Right? You can easily eat a bar or take a bite of a sandwich while you're hiking. Or, as we talked about, you pull it out of your pack or your vest or whatever you're using to maybe transport some fuel and hydration. and you can eat that on the gondola on the way down. I know in my first 29029 in Utah, I remember they had BLTs in the lodge at the bottom around lunchtime. And I was so excited for a BLT. And I ran into the lodge, grabbed like a BLT or two to go. And I hiked it all the way up to the top of the mountain. And I enjoyed it with such pleasure on the way down in the gondola ride. Again, in order to exactly that, use the gondola ride for my feeding and hydration. And then on the way up, I was with a group and we were having such great conversation and jovial and just laughing that I didn't want to be stuck also eating at that time. So, but we would check in at every aid station and say hi to everybody. There's music playing and you get to know people there, and especially the people hosting or manning the aid station. And so you're always saying hi to them, and they are incredibly supportive of you too. So take advantage of the infrastructure in place. All right, any other questions that you might have, please post them in the chat. But yeah, 150 for women, 200 for men as a good floor, as the minimum, as a guideline. And then hydration, I usually like to say 16-ish to 18-ish ounces of water, or eventually electrolytes, not anything with too many calories in it, because you're getting your food with calories. Your drink is for hydration, as a minimum per hour too. Now you're high in the mountains and it's dry and it's summer, so you do want to be on top of it. You might need 20 to 24 ounces of water per hour. Back to the fueling. You want to start that maybe after the first ascent on the mountain. Give yourself an hour or two to properly digest the breakfast that you had. And again, as I was saying, the further you get into the event, you might get hungrier. Those needs might go up. And if you feel hunger, that's a good sign. That means your body is sending the right signals and it is working and it is absorbing the fuel and asking for more. It's when we don't get those signals that we want to wonder, okay, am I getting enough calories? What's going on? Same thing for thirst. If you're thirsty and excited to drink some cold water, or in the middle of the night, some hot soup and broth, that's a good sign. That means things are working and the signals are being sent and your gut is digesting and absorbing and doing the things it needs to do. That's a good sign. So, all right, I think we're getting pretty close here. Again, I look forward to meeting all of you on the mountain and having a little bit of a hike with all of you. I hope to get a chance to meet all of you. I pretty much will, as a part of the panel prior to the event, and I'll be floating around the mountain and base camp throughout the event anyway. But come find me. Come find me with questions. Come email me with questions up until the event. And I am here to make you be successful on that mountain and put the infrastructure as well in place so that for these final 5 weeks, you have everything you need in order to unleash, truly unleash what I believe is already in you. Unleash that 29029 potential so that you get Everest. So, I think that'll do it. So I'll give it another moment here for any questions. I'll try to think if I have any other 29029 experience or stories. The main thing is, as long as we stay ahead of the pace and we get to thrive, not just survive on that mountain, then you won't be one of those that isn't lucky, because it's an amazing experience for me personally to do the final hike. I always do the final hike at 29029 events, and it's a lot of fun, and it's an amazing experience for those doing the final hike. They're about to get their red bib and we have the time cut off, and so I try to push and motivate and guide and inspire those people to get that last ascent just before the cutoff. And we've had some amazing experiences out there as that happens. And so hopefully I will be doing that again on in Sun Valley, so that again, we achieve more than we thought we could achieve and really unleash that potential that I believe all of you have. So have a great last 5 weeks. I can't wait to meet all of you at Sun Valley, in Sun Valley. And until then, good training, happy training. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you there. The last question was, are we allowed to go back up for the final hike if we've already finished? Of course, you can keep hiking away. You can do, if it's 13, you can do 20. It doesn't stop. So have a great last 5 weeks, and I look forward to meeting you all, seeing you all on the mountain in Sun Valley. Thank you.